All right, 2010.
I gotta go.
Well, then hurry and tell these folks. Because a lot of people, you know, you're pretty positive, happy-go-lucky kind of ish on the surface about things, but you actually had a very distinct plan for how you wanted your season to go. Do you feel that went that way for this year?
Yes and no. The year started off pretty crappy, honestly. We struggled, and that was, I guess it was somewhat expected, but you always hope going in the year that you're going to be a little bit better with switching over to Ford and transitioning into kind of the Roush Fenway Alliance. It was going to take some time. Obviously, at Daytona, we were really fast, and whatever, I choked. Stuff happened. We didn't get a good finish out of it, and then we kind of struggled the next few weeks. Atlanta, we ran well, but I felt like the first 10 races we were just really hot and cold and just struggling a lot. So that put us in a big hole, and then after that, I felt like we kind of got back in game plan. We started running more consistent. I felt like my chiplet and I, and just everybody on the race team was kind of gelling, and we started being really consistent, having top 15 finishes every week, and I felt like overall that got us kind of where we needed to be as a race team. In points, I kind of wanted to be a little bit higher, but it seemed like we'd make a lot of ground, and then we'd have one mistake, and that kind of put us back in points. We did that a lot. So I felt like at the end of the year as a race team, we got closer to where we need to be. We still have a long way to go, but I felt like I was happy with where we were ending as a race team. So as a whole year, you always want to be the strongest at the end of the season. I felt like we were, but when it comes to where we finished in points, we want to be higher. Obviously, you want to go out there and have a chance to win some races. We did, but we didn't kind of close the deal. We had some mistakes there. So overall, I was fairly pleased with certain things, unhappy about others, and I think the biggest thing about next year is we need to just take the things that we were really good at and try to work on some of the mistakes we made, and more importantly, just get more consistent. I felt like the last 6 months during the season, at each race, at some point we were fast. We were a top 10, top 5 race car. There were just times that, for whatever reason, we lost the race car. We couldn't get it back throughout the race. So those are the things we need to work on. If we fix those, then I feel like we'll be really good next year.
So leading 143 laps at Dover this year was clearly, from the outside looking in, a highlight of the season for 2010. Did that really mean anything? I mean, what did that mean to you? Did that show you that you knew you could lead? Knew you could win a race? How did that affect you as far as marking anything off your list or not? Or where did you place that as far as your highlights?
I mean, I would say that it's significant for the reason for me to know that I can go out there, I can pass the 5-time champion for the lead. I can drive away. I can lead first half of a race and not make any mistakes and things like that. And it's stuff that we need to do more. I haven't led a lot of laps in Cup. We got to lead at Daytona this year. We got to lead a few races on our own. Had our first pole and led some of the laps there, but that was obviously our most dominating performance when it come to leading laps, restarting in the lead and holding guys off and driving away from them. So that was a big deal, but in the end, these Cup races are so long. You look at the guys like Jimmy and Danny, those guys, they know when to turn it on, they know when it's time to go, and how to pace themselves. So that's stuff that I still need to learn and know how to constantly keep working on the race car throughout the race to make it good at the end. But to go out there and lead, it was a pretty big deal. I hadn't been able to do that yet in my career, so hopefully there's more of that to come.
So, quickly, what would you consider the biggest highlight of the year for you?
Obviously the pole at Phoenix. I think that was really cool. The race didn't go as well as I hoped, so that was something that in the end the race paced the points, and so kind of, to me, it didn't take away from it, but it didn't make it as big as it could have been because we didn't run as well as I'd like during the race. But I just felt like at the end of the year, showing up every weekend, it felt like we had a chance to be on pole every Friday. And from the beginning of the year to where we couldn't even qualify in the top 20, it seemed like, to the end of the year to where we were one of the top 5 cars every weekend when we showed up to the racetrack when it was time to qualify. that was pretty cool. It was pretty cool to know that when I went out on the racetrack, that people were looking at me, had a chance to steal pole. And we had a lot of outside front rows, a lot of third places, and that was a pretty big highlight for me. And you know, overall, there's not a race that stands out that I feel like, you know, that was a race. That's my highlight. I feel like, you know, there's still a lot more to come. I want to be able to run in the top 5 a lot more, run inside the top 10 consistently. You know, I felt like we were, like I said, a top 15 car, but that's not good enough. So there was no one specific highlight. There's a lot of good things that I can learn from, but there's a lot more that I want to do that I can actually make highlights. So hopefully that's next year, and you know, we'll have some wins to talk about.
So there wasn't a specific highlight. Was there a specific low light or disappointment of the year, or?
There's a few of those. Daytona, both Daytonas kind of gutted me. That was something that both races we had probably the fastest car out there. And, you know, I can say a little bit of mistakes for me, circumstances that I got put in that I couldn't change. But knowing the things that I know now, I wish I could go back and change those and learn to maybe not put myself in that position to have that chance of those things happening. So those were pretty disappointing. You know, I look at some of the races that we had chances to win and just mistakes, whether it was from me or from the race team. Stuff like at Dover where you get a flat tire for a 10-cent bolt in your tire. That's something that you can't change. So I feel those were lowlights, but in the end, you know, I felt like we ended strong, and that's what I want to do. I want to make sure that we were the strongest at the end of the season compared to where we were in the beginning. So I feel like there's good things happening next year. Race cars will be brand new. We should be faster, and that'll be a big deal.
All right, and lastly, you know, it's no secret we had some upheaval here with our race team at the end of the year, and with that going on, you had a tremendous amount of fan support that came out. We got emails, tweets, letters, everyone writing to support you personally, to ask Best Buy to continue to support you. Unlike a lot of drivers, you're actually somebody who reads a lot of that. There's probably not much of that doesn't get put in front of you at some point. What does that mean? How did that make you feel? What does that mean to you for that kind of fan support?
I mean, that was probably one of the coolest things all year, to go through a tough time and to build such a great relationship with Best Buy, and to know at the end of the year that it might not come back, the team might not come back, stuff that you work for all together just might disappear, and to have all the fan support, the thousands of people that wrote to the Best Buy CEO telling them they needed to come back, the fan support of when the race team was disappearing, and people writing in and saying, you know, it'll be all right, it'll be fixed, we'll make this happen, just from fans creating their own websites to try to save the race team, fans writing in and blowing up Best Buy CEO. Thank you, Dinger, for that. Just for people to care that much, just about somebody in general, especially me, somebody that I still look at when I think about myself here, is somebody that's still not that big in the sport, and still has a lot to go out there and perform and show a lot of people and sponsors that I can go do the job. But to have people take that much time and care that much was pretty significant. And I think it shows that if you try to go out there and do the right things, that people care. So because of all that, now I hope I can go out there and win some races for everybody.
And lastly, what does Dinger have on his wish list to Santa Claus? What did you ask for Christmas this year?
Fast race cars next year.
Fast race cars next year?
That's it.
That's it.
That's all I need. I got everything else. I got a beautiful wife. I've got the best team of people working for me. Thank you, Tara, Molly, Skippy. He's not watching this, but he'll be there. I got the world in my hands. That's right here. And they're small hands, so it's a small world. But got the world in my hands. I just want fast race cars, or I want to go out and win. That's all I care about.
All right.